She walked into the golden lobby, suitcase in hand, her clothes worn, her eyes tired. Laughter echoed behind the counter as the hotel staff stared, not with kindness but mockery. To them she was invisible, just another face that didn't belong in their world of chandeliers and marble floors. But what they didn't know, what none of them could imagine, was that the woman they were ridiculing had a story that would turn their laughter into silence. Because sometimes the one you look down upon is the one standing above you all along. This wasn't just a check-in, it was the beginning of a lesson they'd never forget. Her name was Maya, a woman who had built her life from nothing. For years she worked under the scorching sun in small towns, cleaning, serving, and saving every cent she could. Her hands were rough from labor, but her spirit remained unbroken. Few people knew that behind her quiet strength was a heart that had endured endless rejection, simply because of the color of her skin. This trip was supposed to be her escape. After years of struggle, she'd finally taken a vacation, her first ever, and booked a room at one of the city's most luxurious hotels. The pictures online promised kindness, comfort, and respect. But the moment she walked through those shimmering glass doors, the air changed. The receptionist's smile faded when he saw her. The manager's eyes traveled from her hat to her scuffed shoes, and the laughter from the staff began before she even reached the desk. They didn't see her as a guest. To them, she didn't belong here. Maya handed over her ID and reservation printout, her hands trembling slightly. She could feel every stare, every whisper slicing through the silence. Still, she kept her voice calm, polite, steady, because that's what she'd learned to do. She didn't come here for a fight. She came for peace. But what awaited her wasn't rest, it was humiliation. And as that moment unfolded, none of them realized that Maya wasn't just another tired traveler. She was someone whose story would soon make the entire hotel remember her name forever. The check-in should have taken minutes. Instead, it became a spectacle. The manager in his perfect gray suit leaned toward the counter with a smirk that made Maya's stomach twist. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said, drawing out the words slowly. "But rooms here start at $500 a night. Are you sure you're in the right place?" The laughter that followed wasn't loud, but it was enough. Maya felt the heat rise in her chest. She'd dealt with this before. The tone, the glance, the disbelief that someone like her could afford anything beyond survival. "I already paid," she said quietly, sliding her receipt forward. Her voice was calm, but her hands trembled just enough for them to notice. The manager looked at the paper, then at her again. "Paid for which room?" "The suite," she said. That one word, suite, made the entire staff pause for half a second before bursting into soft laughter. The woman in red whispered something to her colleague, who covered her mouth to hide her grin. Maya stood still, holding her ground, even as the sting of humiliation burned behind her eyes. The manager shook his head. "There must be a mistake. We don't—" But before he could finish, another guest entered. A man in an expensive suit rushing to the counter. "I'm sorry, but my room's double booked. I was told to wait." Maya's receipt matched his booking number. The suite. The most luxurious one in the hotel. The manager froze. The laughter stopped. A quiet, uneasy silence filled the lobby. The truth sat heavy between them, but his pride refused to bend. "This can't be right," he muttered. "I'll have to verify this." As he disappeared into the office, Maya stood alone. Every minute stretched painfully long. People passed by, some staring, some pretending not to notice. She tried to focus on her breath, on staying composed. But deep down, she wondered why proving her worth always had to be a fight. When the manager returned, his face was pale. The payment was real. The reservation was valid. She wasn't lying. But instead of apologizing, he forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Well, looks like you got lucky," he said. "Enjoy your stay." Lucky. As if dignity was a prize, not a right. Maya took the room key and walked away, the weight of every whisper following her to the elevator. But inside that elevator, something shifted. The humiliation turned to quiet determination. She wasn't done yet. And by the time this was over, they would remember her not as the woman they mocked, but as the guest who changed everything. Hours later, the hotel buzzed with its usual rhythm. Guests checking in, waiters rushing through the lobby, the same staff still whispering about the woman with the old suitcase. But they didn't know what was coming. That evening, luxury cars began pulling up outside. Security tightened. The general manager arrived in a hurry, fixing his tie nervously as the front doors swung open. A group of investors had come to meet someone, someone important, someone they all respected but had never met in person. Maya stepped out of the elevator. Gone was the dusty flannel shirt. She wore a sleek black dress, her posture tall, her expression calm yet powerful. Heads turned. The same staff who had laughed earlier froze in disbelief. The general manager rushed forward with a bright smile. "Ms. Johnson, welcome. We've been expecting you. The conference room is ready." The room went silent. Every eye shifted from Maya to the manager who'd mocked her earlier. His face drained of color. He stammered, "Ms. Johnson?" She looked at him, not with anger but with a silence that cut deeper than words. He realized in that moment that the woman he'd humiliated that morning was not a guest at all. She was the new owner of the hotel chain, the one who had quietly bought it months ago under an investment firm's name. Maya turned to him slowly. "I paid for the worst room," she said softly, "because I wanted to see how your staff treats people they think are beneath them." The words hit like thunder. The employees stood frozen, the laughter from earlier echoing in their minds. The manager's lips parted, but no excuse could fix the damage. Without another word, Maya walked past him, her presence commanding every inch of that marble floor. The chandeliers seemed brighter now, or maybe it was just the reflection of justice finally seen. The next morning, the mood in the hotel had changed. The same lobby that once echoed with laughter now carried an uneasy quiet. Staff moved carefully, avoiding eye contact. The manager's office door was shut, and for the last time. His nameplate was gone. Maya stood by the window of the suite, the one they said she didn't deserve. Sunlight poured across the room, but she wasn't smiling. She wasn't celebrating revenge. She was thinking about all the times she'd been judged before this. All the doors that had closed, all the people who had looked at her and decided her worth without knowing her story. She could buy every hotel in the city if she wanted to. But that wasn't the point. The point was to show what dignity really looks like. Quiet, graceful, and unshakable. Later that day, she called a meeting with the entire staff. No anger, no shouting, just truth. "This place," she said, her voice calm, "will be remembered not for its marble floors, but for the way it treats people. That changes today." Some heads bowed. Others fought tears. The lesson hit harder than any punishment could. That night, as Maya checked out and walked toward the doors, a young cleaner stopped her. She was a black woman, too, nervous, clutching her broom like a shield. "Ma'am," she whispered, "thank you for standing tall. People like me needed to see that." Maya smiled. "Don't let anyone tell you what you deserve. Let your actions do it for you." She stepped out into the evening light, her reflection gliding across the hotel glass. Behind her, the staff watched silently, not out of mockery but out of respect. And as the doors closed, one question lingered in every viewer's heart. How many more times must someone prove their worth before the world finally stops judging by skin and starts seeing the soul?